you know, their transactional activities, money exchanging hands, bribery, returning of illegal favor, and then monopoly. This is also part of leadership. So when you have a government in place, you have an administrator, and this person just, you know, strike a deal with certain people, or they just strike a deal with one person and makes the person the sole distributor of a particular product and service that is supposed to be in a free economy or a free market system. So now the person, that's even where that's another area that bribery comes in also. So this particular person pays some money to the government or the government agencies, and he's now made the sole distributor. So the business or the market, the other people who are supposed to be competitors are taken out of the market, and he has bought his way into the systems. Wide discretionary powers. The law, they say, is an ass. Do we really have a law in Nigeria, or do we just have laws that are on paper but not, applicable to situations? Many times you've heard of politicians, you've heard of top guns in the society, you heard allegations around them. But at the end, what does the law do to them? Do they actually get convicted? Do they actually, well, you just don't hear anything about them again. But try this in another country. Try this in the United Kingdom, for instance. Today is the 30th day of June 2022. And if you see this, you're aware that the former Deputy Senate President, Ike Ekweremadu, is being charged for, you know, whatever they said he did. And right now, there's the controversy now. They're trying to center it around the age of the person, whether he was underage or whether he was had gotten to an age where he could have granted consent to donate whatever they needed from him. So, but that shouldn't just be what we're talking about. It's not just all about the age. Now, did he really want to freely donate this, or did he really want to sell this? And did they go through the correct procedures of the law? So these are things that we should be talking about. So now there's a case before him, and to me, it's just straightforward. They have laws, you violated the laws, and now you're going in for it. I think he was misguided, because if that were to be in Nigeria, it wouldn't have been an issue. So that's what we mean when we talk about laws not working. Then we have lack of transparency. There's no form of transparency in most of our government dealings, and nobody is held accountable. Then inequality is another one that affects the masses. You have the gap between the rich and the poor is just so wide. I know in every economic environment, there will always be the rich. You have the high class, the middle class, and the low class. But if highly imbalanced, that's a big problem. And there's what my a lecturer of mine in school used to say. Then he said, in Nigeria, we ought to have the high class, the middle, and the low class. But he said, in Nigeria, I don't think we have the high class. If you're talking about the high class, you may just be talking about the ones who embezzle government money. But the people, you look at it as rich people. If there should be in other societies, there wouldn't be rich. So he said we start from the middle class, the low class, and then below the low class we have another class which is called the garbage class. So what do you call these people in a society? The people who come to your doorstep, to your gate, to pick up crabs, to pick up scrap metals. What do you call them? To pick up garbages? So this is another pathetic class of people. And then the weaker, they are very weakened enforcement mechanisms. So you have rules and regulations, you have laws that are not strengthened enough to put people to order. to discipline people. So you just have laws that are floating here and there. You have laws that cannot send people to jail for doing the wrong thing. Instead, it even backfires on the innocent ones and the people who are targets of being witch hunted. So that is another big problem. There's a weakness of our enforcement mechanisms, and then low wages and incentives. You see, when we face inflation, we have prices of goods and services going up every day, but there's no corresponding increase or increment in our wages and salaries. And then misappropriation of funds in public offices. They have budgets. There's a fund coming in for this particular um, task or activity, but then you know it's not well spent. It's not well spent as it ought to be. So you see that after spending just a fraction of the money, there's still a lot of excess, and then someone else pockets that. So bribery, favoritism, tribalism, yeah, extortion. So now this is something very important, especially as it relates to electoral form of corruption. So now, you know, we are voting people based. It should be based on credibility, but now you have several people who want a particular candidate because they feel he's from their ethnic group. So that is a strong factor. That's tribalism. And then as a leader, you feel because this person is in your camp, you have to favor him. Favoritism, they go together. And then you have even really, based on religious sentiments and you know what have you not. These things are these things rule out the possibility of a fear of placing integrity above every other thing. The Transparency International, sometime in 2012, highlighted certain institutions for development in countries across the world. And these are the institutions: the legislative arm of government, the executive arm of government, the judicial arm of government. Then you have the public sector. Yes, you have the law enforcement agencies, you have the electoral body, you have the ombudsman, that's the Public Complaints Commission, you have your anti-corruption agency, you have your political parties, you have the media, you have civil society, and you have businesses. So if you have all these institutions are functioning well, corruption remains in check. So now the legislative arm of the government, are they really practicing the democracy? So this is an assembly of people who ought to come together to make laws that will directly favor the masses. But the bills that are being submitted there, are they really in favor of the people? And do we really see acts come out of there, acts that are beneficial to the people? Many times we've seen a lot of proposed laws being thrown away. Meanwhile, you see the legislators come up with bills that you feel are just so unnecessary. Then the executive arm of government, the executive governors, the people that are really in the center of power, of controlling resources, the public organizations and the rest. Then talk about law enforcement agency. If you have the police harassing people, the police collecting bribe, that is really bad for the development of the country, because that is a lot of corruption there. Then you have the Public Complaints Commission. If you do not have a strong Public Complaints Commission that can stay neutral to attend to the concerns of the citizens and try to help keep the government in check, that is another sign of danger. Anti-corruption agencies, you have the Economic Financial Crimes Commission, the ICPC. These are organizations or commissions that are supposed to check, you know, corruption. I just hope they do better. We have political parties also. Political parties are also supposed to be there to checkmate the practices of fellow political parties, especially the ones who are, you know, the ruling party, the party that is, you know, ruling at the moment in the government. Then the media, of course, I think the media has been trying because we have a lot of private media outfits. They just try to their freedom of expression. You know, the freedom of press has to be there, and many of them are exercising this well. Even though sometimes we hear that some of them get slammed with fines whenever they try to cross the line. You know, when you dare report on what the government feels you shouldn't. You know, but that is another good way to keep corruption in check. And basically, um, that's the basics of about corruption. So I just want to urge us all to understand that corruption is a thing that is systemic, and it's more deadly and dangerous when it stays unresolved. So I just wish us the best in Nigeria. Nigeria for life. No, we just got to do better. We have to do better. It's a revolution.